Hi, Cougars. It's Miss Boehme. Today is Grinch Day at school, and you know that my favorite Christmas character is the Grinch. So, of course, we're going to read How the Grinch Stole Christmas, written and illustrated by Dr. Seuss. And this copy of the book was published by Random House Publishers. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. He hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, please, don't ask me why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be, perhaps, that his head wasn't screwed on right. Maybe his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all is that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew all the Who's down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. Why, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew all the cool girls and boys would wake bright and early, and they'd rush for their toys. And then, the noise. The noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Who's, the young and the old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and Who rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they would do something that he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. The Who's would stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, why, I must stop this whole thing. For 53 years I've put up with it now. But I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. Well, I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, oh, what a great Grinchy trick. Why, with this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer were scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? No. He simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he found some red thread, and he tied a horn to the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. The Grinch said, "Get up," and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were still dreaming, sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first house on the square, "This is stop number one," the old Grinchy Claus hissed. Then he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, and then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where all the Who's stockings hung in a row. "These stockings," he said, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in the bags, and the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Well, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I'll stuff up the tree." And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" Well, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the old Grinchy Claus lied, "there's a light on the tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child, and he patted her head, and then he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. The last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but some hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small for even a Who's mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 past dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. He packed it up with the presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pull, pull to the Who's," he was grinchiously humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, Boo-hoo! That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and then he shook, for what he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, beneath, the tall and the small, were singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without bags, it came without packages, boxes, or tags. And he puzzled for 3 hours more. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the moment his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he rode with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Merry Christmas, Cougars. Let us not forget what Christmas is truly about, being kind to one another in this season. Have a good day.